Live yet? I don't know. Still doing its thing. You're live. Hello, coders. Welcome to episode 122. That's nuts. 122. That's a huge number. Did I think this was ever going to get this far? No, I didn't. Today, we're going to be talking about the PHP bug RFC. And this is an RFC that suggests or discusses in great detail. It's a great RFC. I've got a link to that in the show notes below. Whether or not GitHub should be the new home for the bug tracker for PHP. And what I've done is I've created 5 pros and 5 cons. So I've been thinking about whether this is a good thing or whether this is a bad thing for the PHP community going forward. And that's what I want to discuss today. A little bit of housekeeping before I do, though. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has watched the YouTube shorts. This is something that I'm playing around with, or have been playing around with for the past 3-4 weeks. And the response has been great. The response has been brilliant. I've even done a YouTube short. For anyone who doesn't know what a YouTube short is, it's a 60-second, in my case, it's a 60-second video tutorial. So I've been focusing primarily on like PHP 8 and other PHP things, but I've also been using it as a mechanism to answer questions that I get from the community. And I had one the other day around JavaScript and whether or not there was a spaceship operator in JavaScript. Like we've got the spaceship operator in PHP, whether there was an equivalent one in JavaScript. So I did a YouTube short about that. And I think moving forward, that's probably how I might be doing these things. Using these YouTube shorts as a means of me quickly answering questions, but also I would like to continue doing YouTube shorts around PHP, the specifics of PHP. So with the new PHP 8 functionality, I think I'm going to center my content, my YouTube shorts around that for the time being, and then filter through the answers to the questions as I get them or as I come up with them. I was actually trying to do one before we started today's show, but I've recently upgraded my operating system on my streaming Mac Mini here, and there's been issues with various things that I've installed or haven't upgraded yet. So it's anything I do now has to take a little bit extra time because I'm having to acknowledge that such and such needs write access to a certain part of the hard drive, or these notifications appear and all that stuff. So anyway, that's by the by. So yes, YouTube Shorts I'm going to continue doing, and I'm really thankful for all the views. They're doing really well, and I'm going to continue doing those. And I'm going to try and release at least one a week going forward. So there's that. The other one is a reminder that we have our contact form, a new contact form on the howtocodewell.fm website. So howtocodewell.fm/contact. If you want to suggest any content, any videos that I do, or any topics of this podcast, then please write me a message there. It goes straight to me. Also, there's the Discord as well. If you haven't joined, howtocodewell.net/Discord. Okay, so that's all that stuff out of the way. Let's talk about the PHP bug tracker on GitHub. This is the essence of today's show. So let me just put some groundwork down. The PHP bug tracker, as it stands, is a very old school bug tracker. It's built by the community, and it's missing a lot of usability issues. Let's just put it like that. Let's be frank. It's an extremely old school bug tracker. And when you're working with a system like that, you have a lot of maintenance, you have a lot of challenges in terms of upgrading, looking after it. You're then dealing with the infrastructure, and the maintenance, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of things that happen in the background that these maintainers who don't have a lot of free time have to deal with. So it's not like a web development team can just jump on it and build a new one. It's been like this for many years, and the chance of it being improved or upgraded drastically to bring it up to the sort of the everyday common standards is pretty slim. And also you have other bug trackers, GitHub being one of them, the issue tracker. Everybody now is kind of used to doing that, writing issues in GitHub and assigning labels to those things. The maintainers are also used to using, say, GitHub projects or assigning that to different tasks or what have you. GitHub has a huge suite of project management tools that one can use. Now, we're moving into the pros and cons here, but I just want to lay the groundwork to say that the bugs.php.net is extremely old, whereas the new stuff is not. And we're seeing a shift where there is more people who are used to the new stuff and expect the new stuff on the old stuff. And it's one of those things. It's like, what do? Do you maintain this bug tracker, or do you use something off the shelf that everyone is aware of? It's that it kind of boils down to that kind of decision. But I've broken this down into 5 pros and 5 cons. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the cons. So these are the negatives, because I would like to end the show with some positivity. I think that's a very good way to go. Hey, thank you very much for joining. I hope you're well. Thank you. I'm going to mispronounce your name. Is it Vicente Martins? Thank you very much for joining. I appreciate this. This is live. This is live every Thursday at this time, or around about this time. And then it goes off to the How to Code Well podcast on the Friday show. So tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to start with the cons then. Okay. Because we're moving to GitHub, let's say we've moved to GitHub, right? The bug tracker. If it breaks, we cannot fix it because it's not ours to fix. So if GitHub goes down, then PHP and the PHP community is literally at the mercy of GitHub. Now, if GitHub went down, there are far more problems than PHP. There are other things as well, of course, but it's a risk. This is what I mean. It's a risk. So you're basically giving a company responsibility for your tracking of improvements and bugs and community discussion, because that's essentially what it is. GitHub you can kind of see as almost like a programmer's social media platform, because you create your own GitHub profile and you can thumb up and thumb down certain comments. You can become a bit of an influencer in the GitHub space, your GitHub profile. And so you've got that to contend with as well. So there is a risk. There is a risk if GitHub goes down, if there's some issue with GitHub, then we're stuck. So that's number one. Number two is that once you are in the ecosystem, and GitHub is an ecosystem, let's be clear here, then it's very hard to get out of it. So at the moment we're at this stage where we're deciding, what do we do? Do we drop ship and move and go to GitHub and just scrap what we've got? Cut our ties from the old style, migrate all the stuff over to GitHub, and there we go. It's going to take a long time to do it, to move all the stuff over, all the labels and everything. Once it's done, though, it's going to be very difficult to move out. And also, the longer you're in GitHub, it's going to be incredibly difficult to move out. So making the decision to move away from GitHub will be harder, in my opinion. Now, I should have said, sorry, all of this is my opinion, right? This is my opinion. And my opinion could be completely wrong, okay? So let's just say that. So making the decision to move away from GitHub will be harder, in my opinion, to move away from bugs.php.net. And if we need to make that decision in the future, we will need to support an integration back to GitHub. So you can kind of see this as our one-way street. You know, moving into GitHub kind of means that you're going to be there for good, in my opinion, because coming out of it is a bigger decision than it was to get in. Because if you've opened it up to the GitHub community, and you have thousands of people putting in requests and issues and all of that stuff, then wherever you go after GitHub, you're going to have to support all that. You're going to have to integrate all of that back into wherever you're going into next. And that's a challenge. You'll never get rid of GitHub if you go to GitHub, essentially. That's what I'm trying to say here. Okay, the third negative of going to GitHub is that we have to play by their rules. We have to adhere to their requirements and their rules and their community guidelines. Like I said, it's a social media platform for programmers. It is. That's what GitHub is. So if GitHub doesn't allow certain countries, for instance, to access GitHub, I'm just spitballing here. This could be I don't think it's an issue right now, but it could be in the future. If GitHub suddenly goes, this country is not allowed access to our GitHub platform, then sorry, we have to drop those developers and that community, that chunk of that community. The big tech companies at the moment, you have to remember that Microsoft owns GitHub. So these big tech companies, they do have plays within the political sphere. And so if they can quite easily go, no, you're not having access to this. And if we have a lot of developers in that country, then that's going to be a challenge. That's going to be a challenge for us. And we have to play by their rules. We have to play by their rules. If there was a community member causing a massive fuss, and I would like to think that the PHP community would do something about it, obviously. But if we don't, and they broke the community rules of GitHub, for instance, then we have to fall back to their way of disciplining the community. Okay, number 4. It's a programming language. Can't we build something better? So if time and money wasn't an issue, then we, as a community of PHP developers, could build something that is far more better and tailored towards PHP. And we could use that as a means of dogfooding our own work and therefore building a tool for the PHP community by the PHP community using PHP. You see what I mean here? You know, as much as it pains me, as much as, and we'll get onto the pros in a minute, but as much as I like the idea of going to GitHub, there is a part of me that's like, oh, that's another one gone. That's a shame, isn't it? You know, if only we could spend time and make the bug tracker better and more mature, and be proud of it. That's essentially it. Okay, number 5, I think we're at now, is we have to follow the GitHub roadmap, whatever that may be. So we don't have a choice over how GitHub looks, because that's up to GitHub. We don't have a choice over the functionality of GitHub. We don't have a choice over whether or not GitHub is mobile friendly. We don't have a choice whether it's going to go into, how it works on certain browsers. We don't have a choice. We have to go by their roadmap. And whatever is on their roadmap is whatever we're going to get. Whereas if we owned the platform and built our own platform, then we have our own choices to make and we are in control. That's essentially it. We are losing control by going to GitHub. Now, this all sounds very bad, and we'll get on to the good stuff in a minute. But I just want to say that going back to what I said before, it takes a lot of energy to maintain this, a lot of energy going forward, and it's a choice, in my opinion, about time. Because yes, it would be lovely to create our own better bug tracker for PHP, but it's time and effort and energy moved away from other areas of PHP. And one could argue that, hey, there's something off the shelf here we could just use. Can't we just do that and then focus our time and energy on something else? So that is actually the fifth point of the pro. We'll do that now. So we'll get into the pros of this. So the fifth one, as I've just mentioned, is it's a time saver. We can spend our time building better things for PHP instead of improving and maintaining that bug tracker. Yes, there's going to be a portion of time that we have to deal with in terms of migrating all of the current things over to GitHub, sure. But in the long run, we'll be saving time because we won't be maintaining it. It's not our infrastructure, so we don't care. And the time saved will be going back into improving PHP, which, to be honest, is probably the best thing out of this. All right, so I'll start from the top. So number one of the pros. Number one of the pros for why we should be using GitHub for our PHP bug tracker. Number one, it provides a gatekeeper. And like I said, this is my opinion. This is all my opinion. All right, and I could be completely wrong, and I'm happy for a debate. So number one, it provides a gatekeeper. Now, what do I mean by that? So currently, bugs.php.net, anyone can submit a bug, anyone, without registering an account, which isn't great. GitHub requires that you have a GitHub account for an issue submission, which means that you can't just be spammed or bullied by any random anonymous person on GitHub. You have to have an account, and therefore that person needs to be accountable for what they post, which means that if there is an issue with a community member, we can get to the bottom of that and sort that community member out, kick them out, ban them, throw the ban hammer down quicker, because we are dealing with a community-driven third-party bug tracker that everybody who is a programmer uses, and you need to have an account to use it. And so there is a gatekeeper. We're just not allowing any random Joe to just throw shit at the wall. We can just say, look, you need to have an account in order to create an issue, which I think is probably one of the better things of this. Yes, this is live. This is live. Thank you very much for joining. Mansur. Is that Mansur? Thank you very much. Okay, so another pro, the second, well, actually, it's the third pro. The GitHub ecosystem. Now, I mentioned a bit of this in the negatives, but actually there's some other positives. So the ecosystem of GitHub, and there is a very big ecosystem in GitHub. So issues on GitHub can now be matched against commits, change logs can be automated, better project management and workflow tools can be used, GitHub Actions for automated tasks, unified experiences across the other GitHub PHP repositories, and so much more. You know, GitHub is, as I mentioned, it's a social media community for programmers. It also hosts, obviously, the code, and you can do all sorts of wonderful, weird and wacky things in the GitHub platform. Like I said, linking issues to code commits. You've got your whole label system. You've got GitHub Actions for workflow management. You've got Kanban agile boards if you want to for project management. And the social media aspect of it is brilliant because, you can now see in a very transparent manner who are the maintainers of PHP, who are the people who are raising these issues. So I think it's brilliant. And I just want to mention a bit about the transparency about the maintainers. GitHub also provides ways in which you can sponsor maintainers and actually give them some revenue and show your appreciation. And it's a great way to give back to the community. And it's more transparent than it is on the current bugs.php.net. Let's just say that. You can be able to see who is actually dealing with PHP, raising issues, coming up with questions, who's triaging all the issues and dealing with all the admin-y stuff. You don't really get to see that on the bugs.php.net. Whereas in GitHub, it's kind of there, and you can almost navigate your way around and see profiles and find out, what people do, what other projects they're working on. It's sometimes I find myself spending hours just going through people's profiles, seeing what repos they've got. It's great. I even have my CV on GitHub. That's how much I use GitHub. I just give the recruiters a link to the CV, and it's just, my profile, cv.git, done. Okay, so the last pro, and what I'll do, I'm going to spin through all of these at the end, just to give you a sort of a summary. But the last one is that it's not our infrastructure, and therefore it's not our problem. So if it does go down, who cares? It'll come back up. PHP is not the only programming language which will be shouting and ranting and raving on Twitter that GitHub's down. It'll be every other programming language that is on GitHub will be doing the same. But at least it's not our problem. As in, we don't have to go to a server room and update the server or patch the SSL certificate or, do some crazy networking things or deal with traffic spikes or anything stupid like that. It's not our problem. It's not our infrastructure. It doesn't matter. It'll be back tomorrow. It'll be fine. What's a day? So yeah, those are my pros and those are my cons. I'm going to spin through them very quickly just to give you a summary. So let's go back to the cons. So if it breaks, we can't fix it. Once you're in the ecosystem, it's very hard to get out of the ecosystem. We have to play by their rules, and we could build something better if we really put our minds to it. And we have to follow the GitHub roadmap. They are my 5 cons, and my 5 pros, so the positives of doing this, is that it provides a gatekeeper, so your random Joe cannot just create a stupid bug and troll people. You have to have a GitHub account. The GitHub ecosystem is actually amazing, and it's growing and getting better, and we can be a part of that. Everybody knows GitHub. I don't think I mentioned this one, actually. GitHub, yeah, everybody knows GitHub, as in the barrier of entry is now very low because every programmer knows GitHub. Everyone knows about it. Everyone can use it. This lowers the barrier of entry while still ensuring that authors have an account. So, also, it's not our infrastructure, and therefore it's not our problem. And it is a huge time saver. Thank you very much for saying that, Idreal. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I think that kind of covers it. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are. If you think that this is a good idea, putting bugs.php.net on GitHub or not. I guess if I had to make a decision myself, I would say yes, it's a good idea, but do it with caution. Try and, if you can, try and do it with a back out clause. If you can, I don't know how you would be able to do that. But I think going forward for the community as a whole, it's a good idea. It's a sad thing because we could, if we wanted to, build our own, but we don't have time for that. And that's the end of the, that's the bottom line. We don't have time, energy, patience, money, infrastructure to do all of that stuff. And all of that I've just listed really could go towards improving the language itself. And the language, as we know, is brilliant. Everybody loves PHP. Who's here? Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Happy coding, everybody. And I'm going to put this live on the podcast tomorrow at howtocodewell.fm. So you can pick up the episode there and listen to the other ones too. Thank you very much. Happy coding and have a jolly good week. Speak to you soon.